This is a Code Ninja security advisory. We are tracking a critical threat, and it has immediate implications for on-premise deployments. Let's get straight to the intel.
Let me be crystal clear. This is not a drill. We are watching the rapid weaponization of a critical vulnerability, and the window for proactive mitigation is closing fast.
Okay, the designation is CVE 2026-1731. What is it? It's a pre-authentication remote code execution vulnerability in BeyondTrust's remote support and privileged remote access products. And the words that should really stand out to you there are pre-authentication. That means no username, no password needed for an attacker to get in.
The CVSS version 4.0 score is a staggering 9.9 out of 10. That's critical. It is about as severe as a vulnerability can possibly get, allowing for a full system compromise with minimal, and I mean minimal effort. So our objective with this advisory is simple and it's direct. We are here to give you the immediate intelligence you need for mitigation and, frankly, to apply pressure for universal patching across all of those self-hosted on-premise deployments out there.
Now, before we go any deeper, we need to do a quick comms check. It's absolutely vital that this intelligence is received and acknowledged by everyone who needs to hear it.
Let's establish a secure comms link. Step 1. Subscribe and enable notifications. Think of this as your personal channel for real-time threat intelligence. Step 2. Hit like. This acts as your formal acknowledgement of receipt for this intel. And Step 3, and this is important, comment with your patch status. Just type patched or vulnerable. This helps the entire community gauge the real-world blast radius.
All right, comms check complete. Now let's get into the deep dive. This is the core protocol for understanding and, more importantly, responding to this threat.
So the crucial question on everyone's mind is, what is the blast radius? Who is actually in the line of fire here?
And here's where there's a critical distinction. If you are a SaaS customer, BeyondTrust silently patched your instances way back on February 2nd. You are safe from this specific attack. However, and this is a huge however, if you are running a self-hosted on-premise instance, you are still vulnerable until you take manual action. The risk is entirely on you.
Okay, so let's get specific. For remote support, any version 25.3.1 and earlier is vulnerable. You must upgrade to 25.3.2 or later. For privileged remote access, versions 24.3.4 and earlier are affected. The fix is to get to version 25.1.1 or later. Memorize these numbers. These are your target versions.
So how does this exploit actually work? Let's break it down, because understanding the attack chain is absolutely key to threat hunting.
The attack chain is dangerously simple. Step 1, the attacker abuses the get_portal info endpoint, which, by the way, is the same endpoint that was targeted in a previous nation-state attack. Step 2, they extract a value called XNS company. And then Step 3, they use that value to establish a website channel, which is basically a persistent two-way communication link. And from there, they can execute arbitrary OS commands. It is a clean, direct path to total compromise.
The root cause is a classic but absolutely devastating flaw, CWE78, otherwise known as OS command injection. This just means the application isn't properly cleaning up the input it receives, allowing an attacker to inject and run their own commands directly on the operating system.
Okay, let's talk about the timeline, because this brilliantly illustrates just how fast a vulnerability can go from a simple vendor advisory to a fully weaponized global threat.
Just look at this compression. February 2nd, SaaS customers are silently patched. February 6th, the vulnerability is publicly disclosed. Just 4 days later, on February 10th, a full proof of concept exploit is already on GitHub. And then, less than 24 hours after that, on February 11th, mass, internet-wide scanning begins. That's the modern exploit lifecycle in a nutshell. And we have clear intel on attacker behavior right now. Reconnaissance is widespread and it is active. Crucially, they are targeting non-standard ports, so hiding your service is not a defense. A single scanner based out of Frankfurt accounts for 86% of the initial recon traffic. And these aren't specialists. These are multi-exploit actors, simultaneously scanning for MOVEit, Log4j, and other high-value targets.
This brings us to defense directives. This is not a suggestion. This is an immediate action requirement.
So, here it is. If you are running a self-hosted instance and you have not patched, you must assume you are compromised. Your posture has to shift from prevention to active investigation and instant response starting right now.
The primary remediation is completely non-negotiable. For remote support, you have to upgrade to version 25.3.2 or later. For privileged remote access, you're upgrading to 25.1.1 or later. This is the only way to fully close this attack vector.
If you absolutely cannot patch immediately, these are your only viable, and I mean temporary, mitigations. You need to restrict all external access to these appliances, you need to enforce strict IP allow listing and network segmentation, and you need to immediately increase monitoring for any anomalous requests hitting that get_portal_info endpoint.
Finally, a word on the code, our ethics. Why are we issuing such a direct, public advisory like this? It's because when these privileged access tools are compromised, attackers don't just get a foothold into your network. No, they get the keys to the entire castle. They gain the exact same level of trusted access that your system administrators have. The risk isn't just significant. For many, it's existential.
Let me be perfectly clear. For any unpatched on-premise systems, the window for simple mitigation has closed. We are now firmly in the remediation and incident response phase. The threat is active. Stay secure.